Guts is one of the most massive characters in all of anime and manga. But that begs the question, could you actually get a physique like this in real life? Could you be as big as this dude in real life? Could you get to be this guy's size, and could you do it naturally? Well, in this video, we're gonna break that down, as well as if you actually could, I'm gonna give you 3 tips at the end on what I would do to train someone to look more like Guts. So stick around for that, but for now, let's dive into if it's actually even possible. All right, so according to Google, Guts comes in at 6'8", which is crazy. That's like an NBA player, and he weighs 253 pounds, which is a pretty good size guy. Now, first off, let's actually look at where this compares to like modern bodybuilders and people like that. Well, if we take like a modern, pretty tall bodybuilder, he just retired, but this is probably one of the best examples I can find, and that would be Chris Bumstead. So Chris actually has about the same size as Guts. He weighs anywhere from 240 to 260, but he's 6'1". So because he's 7 inches shorter, he's actually significantly more muscular than Guts. So that's a good note to take, that you don't have to be a professional bodybuilder, let alone one of the greatest of all time, to actually get a physique like this. In fact, this actually kind of surprised me. Guts' physique is way more like another person that's really famous than it is like a bodybuilder, and that would be LeBron James. Guts would actually be more like an NBA player in terms of the stats than he would be like a bodybuilder. So with LeBron, he's 6'9", 250. That's almost the exact same stats as Guts himself. Now, does LeBron's physique actually look like Guts? No. He's got a great physique, a really good aesthetic basketball physique, but Guts to me looks more like a Greek god or a small, really lean bodybuilder. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that I actually don't think the stats for Guts are accurate. I don't think that at 6'8" you could be that muscular and only weigh 250 pounds. I actually think at that height he would probably be more around 300 pounds or so. Now, this actually got me curious, what are some of the tallest bodybuilders of all time? I know people like Arnold are listed at either 6'1", 6'2". Were there any bodybuilders that were actually much taller? Because on average, bodybuilders typically are a lot shorter. We're talking about probably 90% or so are under 6 foot tall, and most of them are really around 5'5" to 5'7" or so. So I did a quick ChatGPT search and found out that there have been a few really tall bodybuilders. The first one I've actually never heard of. This guy apparently was the tallest Mr. Olympia competitor, Ralph Moeller or Mohler. I feel like that little sign over the O is something I should know how to pronounce, but I don't. So he came in, and it looks like he was the tallest professional bodybuilder or Mr. Olympia competitor that there was at 6'6". And I took a look, and just doing a quick Google search with him, he looked great, actually. He had a very aesthetic physique. In fact, he kind of looks like our guy Guts, to be honest. He's probably got a more aesthetic physique than Guts, but honestly, he looks great. I was very surprised that a guy this tall would look that good on stage. And then the second tallest Mr. Olympia competitor of all time was the one that I probably would have put as number 1 if I didn't know who Ralph was, or before I figured out who Ralph was, and that's Lou Ferrigno. He is the man. I mean, he competed with Arnold back in the 70s. He played Hercules. He played the Incredible Hulk. He was 6'5" and had a great comeback in bodybuilding in the 90s. I think he actually was the biggest bodybuilder of all time. Maybe he wasn't exactly the tallest. Maybe there was one taller than him. But I think including his height and his weight, he probably was the most massive one. Okay, but all that aside, let's get back to Guts. So we've kind of determined that Guts isn't really a professional bodybuilder, but he does have a lot more muscle mass than your average NBA player. So he's somewhere in the middle. Take out the height and everything, that actually tells me that this physique may actually be achievable. Having said that, definitely being on gear or some kind of special sports supplement would definitely make it a lot more feasible, because this guy is super ripped and super muscular. This would not be an easy physique to obtain even on gear. But that leaves me wondering, like, could you obtain this physique not on gear? My honest opinion is that for 99% of the population, most likely not. I think it's very improbable. But for people that have really, really good genetics and work really, really hard, and you have like 10 plus years of experience lifting properly, maybe you might actually be able to get a physique like this. So given that, let's jump into my 3 tips on how I would train someone to get a physique more similar to Guts. Tip number 1 is to make sure you're doing heavy compound exercises. What is a compound exercise? A compound exercise is an exercise that utilizes muscles across multiple joints. So think about your legs, for instance. An example of an isolated exercise would be something like a leg extension for your quads. But an example of a compound exercise would be something like a squat, because a squat works across your hip, knee, and ankle joints. Therefore, you're not just working on one muscle being the quads, you're working on the quads, you're working on the glutes, a little bit of the hamstrings, some of the calves even. A lot of the core is involved in squats. Therefore, it's a compound exercise. So to get a physique more similar to Guts, you're definitely going to want to implement more compound exercises. All right, tip number 2, bulk up. What do I mean by this? Do I mean just like eat McDonald's every single day and gain a lot of weight? No, not necessarily. What I mean is make sure you're having a lot of protein and you're bulking up slowly over time. Getting a physique like this is not gonna be easy, and it's gonna take many years. Like I said earlier, probably at least 10 years of really solid lifting to even get something remotely similar based on your genetics. Side note, remember, genetics play a huge factor in this. For instance, I myself could probably never get a physique like Guts. Number 1, I'm like a foot shorter than him. Number 2, I just don't have these superior genetics like Guts does, and most people don't. Okay, rant aside, definitely just make sure that you're bulking up by eating enough protein, doing it in a clean manner, and doing it slowly over time. And tip number 3 on how to get a physique like Guts, cut off your arm and lose everyone you love. Nah, I'm just playing. Or am I? Actual tip number 3 is to use the right isolated exercises. So Guts has a lot of specific muscles that really pop on his physique, like this back shot of him right here. His traps and his erectors are massive. So you're gonna wanna do a lot of rows and deadlifting. That's really gonna help hit these muscles. He's also got a really great chest. So you've gotta do your heavy compound benches, as well as implementing some flies in there too. And on top of this, he has really great arms and shoulders. In fact, I have a full training plan on exactly how to get Guts arms right here. So check that out if it's something you're interested in. Whose physique should I break down next? Let me know in the comments down below, and thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.